Hello, everyone. This is Angela Sidlow, and today I have Kanani Dilcher, Dr. Kanani, here with us, and she's one of the co-authors for the upcoming book, Drops of Wisdom, Points of Power. And it's a book of transformational stories of holistic practitioners who are using essential oils and acupressure points together. So today we're going to talk to Kanani, and you have a very special place in that you're a medical doctor who's using integrative therapies or alternative therapies or whatever you describe them as in your practice with interns. And your story sort of revolves around that, but you've got some personal aspects in there too. So one of the questions I really wanted to cover was that, what kind of drew you to this and what aha moments have you had along the way?
Thank you. Well, aloha everyone. My name is Dr. Kanani. I'm in Hilo, Hawaii, and so happy to be here with Angela. Thank you for your training. So I would say what brought me to AcuAroma was in moments of crisis as a child, my mother would actually send me out to the plants and tell me to hone in on the energetics of the plants. As a kid, I thought she was crazy, but I tried it every time and I felt an element of it kind of bring me back into myself. And I felt whole again when I sat with the plants. So fast forward years later to COVID, I was again desperate for some help and called mom. Mom said, "What about the plants?" She said, "I sent you all those aromas, those essential oils. Why don't you pull them out?" And so I pulled them out, took a few whiffs, and I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." And then she said, "There's a great AcuAroma course. Why don't you sit with me? It's called I Am Worthy." Oh, why not? I'm desperate at this point. I'm a mom. I'm in COVID. I'm a doctor, and things are just not the same anymore. Medicine has lost its meaning. So in that moment, I sat with black spruce. I mentioned that in my poem, and I felt that same rhythm that I felt as a child sitting with those plants. So then I went crazy and dove into it because I wanted to understand why I felt that. And what I realized is plants have the same energetics as we do in our meridians. And so that point, that AcuAroma point, so I think black spruce is on CV17, really resonated with my meridians and opened me up and then brought me into myself at a new level where I actually had some compassion for myself again, and I was able to release a lot of the stored energy of all the trauma that had happened during COVID for me. And so I would say that's where I kind of figured it back out again. The aha moments, I would say each time I find a new point, I have an aha moment because it's like, oh yeah, there I am again. But the bigger thing for me has been sharing. I want my other physicians around me to feel the same thing. And I didn't know how to find that. I had to find my voice in a way. And so until I did my integrated medicine fellowship, where I saw the evidence and the research behind both essential oils, AcuAroma Therapy, um, with the points. And so they talked about acupressure, they talked about acupuncture, they talked about essential oils, but they really didn't harmonize all of them. So I went further and I found your course, Angela, and the acupressure, and then I discovered those cards. And so that was my voice. I needed a simple mechanism to explain to doctors and pull them out of their left brain into their right brain and help them harmonize between plants, energetics, and their own meridian system. And it was such a cool avenue. I tried it up on the mainland when I was in Oregon practicing with a bunch of residents. And it worked. It worked. And I think it was because I explained a little bit of the science first, but then I had them just sit for a few minutes. And it's a simple entry point for physicians to understand a whole nother world. And I had to do a little bit of the chemistry, but also I just wanted them to sit into the energetics and the spiritual side of it. And I've been doing it ever since. And I do it with my children too, which is really fun. So each of my kids has a favorite oil and a favorite point. I have my youngest, my 6-year-old, who actually loves the points at the back of the head. He'll put lavender there. My oldest, Nate, loves gallbladder 20 with a hug with marjoram. And then my daughter actually enjoys CV17 as well, but with helichrysum. And it's interesting seeing it from a kid's eye. eyes too. Their perspective is fascinating to me. So it's great. It's become my whole world in terms of rehoming into myself, but supported by the ancestors and the plants and their energetics because they know best.
Yes, I think you posted something recently where your youngest one, you had a problem, and he says, "Well, Mom, just get an oil," or something like that.
Yes. Yeah,
It
my
was great.
favorite too, another favorite I had, Angela, was during the course where we did blue tansy. And I think we put the blue tansy on the nose. And
Yeah,
my
we
and
did.
my son was running around with blue all over his nose for the day. But we had such joy in that moment, and it really brought the plant and the points together for us. And it gave
Yes,
us a
that
moment of connection.
and blue tansy, it brings in that element of playfulness. And large intestine 20, yeah, you
Yes,
look kind of silly,
yes,
but yeah,
yes.
a welcome fragrance.
Mhm.
Yes, yes. Well, how do you see this relationship between this plant intelligence and the body's energetic meridian system? And why do you think that there can be so many profound shifts? It's always been sort of a mystery to me, and I love to hear other people's perspectives. So,
Yeah, definitely. I've been thinking a lot about it and reading a bunch too. And I actually read an article in, I think it was in Nature the other day about how plants are communicating to us and we don't even realize it. There was a study where they repeatedly kind of subjected a plant to touch, and then the flower would fold its petals in. And so it kind of was a learned thing. And so I think that plants are communicating. They don't have the cortex in their brain like we do, but they have all these biochemical amazing pathways. And so I think that's where it comes together with our meridian systems because we have these energetic pathways in our body and the plants with their energetics combining with our energetics levels up to a whole new area. And I think there's more than that though too. I think I've done a lot of work with Judith Maxey, who's also a co-author. And for I would say through my work with Judith, I've learned that there's more of a plant spirit. And that's new for me as a physician. My brain doesn't want to receive that, but I do believe the plants have messages to us. And if you sit with them long enough, it communicates through spirit. And I'm finding my spirit as a physician and a mom, and it helps me be a better doctor because I have spirit to connect with my patients. And I'm learning to teach that spirit energy from the plants into meridians, into my spirit, harmonizing my spirit, to my residents, to my learning family doctors, because I think medicine has lost spirit. During COVID, it was telemedicine, and it's really hard to be present and energetic in a Zoom space, although I've learned it well over time. But teaching, bringing the oils in with these residents and explaining the energetics and the biochemistry helps them. But then I also teach them, hey, there is a piece we can't really explain through science. We just feel it. And that's mindfulness. Mindfulness is a solve for burnout in this world, compassion fatigue. And so we really need to fall into that mindfulness state to be better physicians and healthcare providers.
yes, that's such an important message. So, is that the message that you want to leave an impression in with your participation as a co-author to the medical community? If you could say that in a couple of sentences, what would it be that you would want to impart to your colleagues about this spirit level of practicing medicine? Because it's not something that's intuitive to them through all their training as
Yeah.
doctors.
And that's where my integrated medicine comes in. I spent the last 3 years in a fellowship training through the Andrew Weil Center for Integrated Medicine. And really my joy has come back into medicine through dropping all of the science. I have that all in my brain and that's there and that comes into every decision I make. But I want to focus on health and not sickness. And I think that's where spirit comes in. So if we have mindfulness and we have our plant supports and we have this energetic, we're bringing health into the world. And I want my patients, my fellow physicians, my fellow practitioners to be healthy, not sick. And I want to stop practicing sick medicine. And this is where this art comes in. To be a better doctor, I can't be sick and go in to see my patient. My patients won't heal. I have to be in my best energetic and highest frequency, and then I can help my patients get there too. And I feel like that is where we're going to have a resurgence of the old ways, native medicine, because that is the way. That's where our medicinals come from is plants and with all these synthetics. So I think that's the resurgence is after COVID, we've learned that we have to go back to the old ways and listen. We need to listen to our ancestors, and plant medicine comes in very
Mm-hmm.
strong, as well as mindfulness and energy and all of these things that we've forgotten about for so long. Yeah, they're harder to study and harder to understand, but I'm seeing them come out in all the papers, and it's so exciting.
It is.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you're working with the residents, but how does that translate over to the patient? Are they receptive? Are they willing to try using some of these techniques?
So it's amazing. The more I share, the more my patients open up and sink into the visit with me. And it doesn't
Mm,
take very long either. Everyone's worried about the time crunch. If you spend 2 minutes and listen to a patient and hear them, and then sink into this integrated medicine with them, it opens up and things are even more efficient because the patient feels heard and you connect with them truly. So for example, I had a beautiful Hawaiian lady come in who has been suffering for a long time after cancer. She had breast cancer, and I could just feel her heart was broken from all of this and her voice was suppressed. She wasn't getting her message out to the world. And she was hiding out and she wasn't connected. And so we worked for a while. I actually brought an oil to that visit just for fun. I connected with her through Rose, and we put
oh,
Rose. And actually, I did an experiment. I put it right here.
oh.
I put Rose right here, and I told her to trust her heart. Usually I use jasmine there for trust, but
Mhm.
I actually sort of please just sink into it and trust her heart. And she
And,
started
and
crying.
oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting because that's the pericardium meridian.
Yes.
And so, loosening the tightness around the heart, which is the protector, can make the
Yeah.
heart be more open. Good
And then we got,
intuitive hit
yeah,
there.
no, and
Yeah.
I mean, and then we got to the crux of what she was feeling. Her heart was broken because her voice wasn't heard. She was a beautiful native Hawaiian lady with all of this wisdom, and
Mm,
she needed to share it with me and with the world. She needed to share with her community that they needed to connect again. They had fallen off and lost their land and their sense of place, and
mhm.
she wanted to get that out there. And now she's an advocate. She's in the community. She's going to meetings, and it's so exciting.
That is beautiful. We never know where the oil will lead us, do we?
No,
No. And that's the
wonderful.
magic. That's the magic in it. And
And
you can't substitute that for a pharmaceutical either.
no, and I'll share with you, Angela, I had a resident watching that whole thing. Wasn't sure how that physician, that learning physician would take that
Mhm.
because she just came from medical school where it's book knowledge and pharmaceuticals and science. And we walked out and she goes, how did you do that? And I said, I listened. I listened to the plant. I listened to the person. And I felt the experience. And she goes, that was beautiful. I want to do that in my practice.
And
And
that listening came from the heart
yes,
because you dropped out of the mental mind and you dropped into the heart space and the heart can hear so much more.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I mean, I went into medicine. I got a tattoo actually when I first started that means compassion over my heart. And
Mhm.
every time I forget about why I'm in medicine or I feel burnt out, I think about that tattoo. It's compassion with heart, but it's both for me and the patient. And that's that heart space. It's really truly listening with my heart and
Mhm.
opening up.
Yes, and just you as the physician having that experience, you can go on to the next patient and like your heart is so full that you have more to give each time
Yes,
that we have that happen.
yes. And
Yes.
I'm singing instead of kind of worn out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes work exciting again. It's not work anymore. It's play and it's fun.
That's beautiful. Well, I am so excited for the world to be reading your story. Do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to leave anybody who's doing this work or who's, curious about what is this essential oils
Yeah.
like acupoints? What would you say to them?
I think it's listening to the old medicine, the plant medicine, and feeling the spirit. And for me, it was hard at first. It took a little while to sink in and really hear it. So it was practice. I tried a point each day with an oil, and eventually I sunk in and I felt the shift. But I had to sit with it for about a week because my left brain really wanted to block me out. But then after about a week of that repetition, little short segments, I want to do it all the time. It's addictive.
Mhm.
And it's beautiful. It makes you feel whole. So there will be bumps, but once you get over those bumps and just kind of stick to it, there's a whole world around there. And for me, it generates poetry, but I think what that is it opens up a creative spark within myself and gets me out of my brain and into my heart and my body. And I want to be present with my heart always. And so I hope the same for everyone here.
Yes, yes. So I'm encouraging everybody to, you know, when this book is published, it's, to purchase it, read it, share it,
Yeah.
and see all of these beautiful stories that can have meaning for every individual. So thank you, Kanane.
Mahalo.
Dr. Mahalo, mahalo.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you soon.
All right. Aloha.